Michelle Durham. The folks here at Willow, I've partnered with them on a new class that they have to offer you, which is vertical succulent gardening. I'm more of a practitioner than a pro. They're the pros on plants. I've just been doing this as a hobby for 7 or 8 years and actually have turned it now into hopefully a budding business. I'm going to go over a couple of the key things that we use in the class. Let's start off first a little bit with our tools. All we need is a pair of scissors, and yes, it's a stick, but you need something to plant to poke holes. You could use your finger if you wanted. We have our succulent box. I make these boxes because I look to repurpose picture frames. That's my key. We can get a varied look by repurposing our picture frames, and then I also make it out of weather-resistant material. I recommend outdoors, although succulents can go indoors in the right conditions. I primarily make these to go outdoors. There is a lot of information online. We're not going to get a little detail how to make this. Later on, if you'd like that, let the folks at Willow Ridge know. I could show you how I do it. But one of the key things I have added since seeing a lot on the internet, they work, they're fine. The key point that I have found is try to use a plastic mesh for your holding medium. It saves you from having to use tin snips. You can use baby scissors. So that's the big difference. So it's one of the improvements I've made. And always remember, for succulent care, they like well-draining materials. Always keep plenty of drainage, and then they don't need much depth of soil. They're fine. They're meant to grow in rock gardens and other places where they don't. So we don't want them to get overwatered. We want them to get sunlight outdoors, and we want them to be not overwatered through the draining. So now I'm going to go into what we do at the class. I would start with an empty box like this. I would have added a well-draining soil mix. Here at Willow Ridge, they have this cactus mix. It should work. I use the grower's version of a cactus mix, but this should work. So we would pour it in the top. We would fill this up and pack it down. We would then water it in thoroughly with a watering can. I'll skip that part. I have a couple here that have been pre-watered. At the class, this is the size we have you make. And then this is the size I'll also plant. It shows a little better the size. Now a little bit about the plants we use. Again, I said I prefer and recommend outdoors for these. So here in Tennessee, I use what are generally cold hardy year-round plants. The sedums, these are sedums, our hens and chicks. I try to use those, especially for ones that I'm going to have people take away. So I also do, though, offer, during the time of the year, depending on the time of year we're offering the classes, some non-cold hardy ones. These are so cute, and we all love them. So if you come to the class, I try to give you the option of both, but when I make them for general sales to the public, I use these. I also have a slightly bigger size. I offer 2 sizes and make generally 2 sizes. I can go bigger, but so on this bigger size, I would typically use 3 of the larger plants, and then on this side, I would use 3 of those. 3 of the smaller plants. One thing I'll do, and you'll see me when we start planting, is then I fill in with cuttings. Another thing you'll see on a lot of the videos on the internet is a lot of folks go straight from cuttings. Again, it works just fine, but what you get when you go from a whole plant is this plant is holding the dirt. Therefore, once we plant it, and you'll see this, the plant will stay, and it can be hung up a lot sooner, in 2 to 3 weeks. If we go from all cuttings, as you would expect, these will make a beautiful arrangement, but they'll take longer to root. So I do the whole plants from the fact that I want you to be able to hang it sooner. A lot of folks always get worried about why doesn't the dirt fall out? Well, the main reason is we use well-established plants that are holding dirt. Look, okay, a little coming off. The plastic is plastic mesh is primarily there just to hold that root ball in place. And also we like the plastic mesh to have room so there's soil contact, so when that plant spreads, it can find root. As a lot of people who know, especially the sedums, they will root very easily. No big secret to it. If you play with them long enough, you can figure that out. But they will grow and spread, so we like to do that. Now I'm going to get into the actual planting process. And I'm going to use the bigger one just for illustration purposes. So I will snip a hole large enough for the plant to fit in, the root ball. I always look at the orientation. This plant will spill out. So see, the plant's still holding all that dirt. To keep the dirt in, we pack it in well. Sometimes if the depth needs to be lessened, I will take off the bottom of the plant. Splash myself with dirt. Okay, so there's our first one. I generally use a layout that accounts for, and we get into this a lot more in the class, of the growth pattern of the plant. These ones I will use, this one, as I said, spills. Good old hens and chicks will clump and keep spreading, and this one's a spreader as well. It won't overwhelm. So now we'll just have the last, do our big hen and chick. Again, I'm snip as much of a piece of the mesh as I need. Remove the plant, see, holding its own dirt. It's not going anywhere. I'll take a little bit of it off. And then I press it in. Just pressing it in gives it like I said, it'll make it so it can be hung sooner. And the last one we're going to plant, this gold moss. And now I warn people at the class, this is too cool not to use. In Tennessee, some survive the winter, some don't. You see how dry that mix is, and here's a little bit about what that cactus mix has in it. You can see all the extra perlite in there. Succulents want well draining. If you've got dark soil that holds water, that's not what you want. You want soil that holds enough and then drains. So now we have our 3 main plants in there. Looks pretty good, I think. I'm biased. Now we're going to just fill with cuttings. You don't even have to go to this. These plants will expand. I like to have you plant them full because I want you, again, to have pretty quick gratification. So I typically do not use these, but brought the small hens and chicks, but I will use some of these sedums. I usually group them in 3s or 5s. This is tricolor sedum, one of my favorites. And then I simply will make a spot for it to go and use, again, just pack it in there a little bit. Again, Angelina here. This is another one that a lot of you may have in your gardens. It's very nice for a lot of height, and obviously that lime green color is really cool. And then in the fall, you'll get a beautiful orange out of it. Same thing, and I'll probably say this wrong, I'm not a horticulturist. Look the same, but it's blue. It's called blue spruce. These will give your planter a little bit of height. And then we could just fill in to wherever we want. But as you can see, you could hang this right now. I don't recommend that. I usually ask you to wait 2 weeks. One other thing we do, and I'm going to try this and I might regret it, is after we plant, we just give it a good watering in. Just to let that soil settle and to have the plants get a little extra drink. Where do we put them? Sunlight, good sunlight. Succulents need good sunlight. So it can be indirect, but it's got to be good light, at least 6 hours plus. And then watering, I say infrequent but thorough, but let me get more specific. At most, once a week, spring to fall. Winter, even less, once a month. So it wants to go in a sunny outdoor location, water it once a week, spring through fall, and less frequent in winter. Succulents in the winter go dormant, the majority of them. So they want even less water. You keep from having your succulents rot. As you can see, the combination between the frames, the plants is pretty personal. The folks that have made them at the class, it's just everyone is just interesting to see what everybody picks. So at the class you will make this size, which is made from these. And then these we make separately, and some of them are for sale here at Willow Ridge. So again, you can look over here. I talked about the different varieties. My company is called Succulents Go Vertical because I want to stay focused on the vertical applications. You can see there where I've essentially taken, this was a piece of wall art from a local hobby store, and I'm like, I can put plants in it. And sure enough, it's vertical. It had proper drainage structure to support the plants, and it ends up. The rest of those frames, thrift stores, clearance sales, wherever I can find them. So I know you can do the same. If you enjoyed this series and want more details on different parts, maybe the plants or the box, let the folks at Willow Ridge know. They've been wonderful to me and helping me get started with this and showing everybody how to do this, and have fun.